All right, Cannibal Isles playtest number 1, starting in 3, 2, 1. All right, to start the game, we're going to place the isle tiles face down on the board at random. We've got 30 isle tiles that we need to place. These tiles right here. We're going to place the sanctuary in the centermost position of the board with the black side facing up. Now that we have all of our tiles in the board, we're going to place our gold sovereigns. And these will be placed at random face up on the board. Alrighty, and we are going to move all of these guys over here. We're going to place the gold chief at the center to start. And then we're going to place 2 of our hostile cannibals on the board on the 2 highest spaces. So that's going to be the 12 and the 11. I'm going to get my player card set. So I'm going to set my trial of influence to 6. I'm going to set my trust scale. I'm gonna finish putting my cannibals on the board. Alright, so for a solo player setup, this is how we're starting. And we've already gone ahead and we shuffled our land and our sand decks and our agenda decks, so we're gonna place those right there. And we are ready to get started. So to start the game, we're going to choose a position on the board on the outermost coordinates to place our missionary pawn. And now when I'm looking for this, I'm looking for something where I feel like I'm going to have some easy moves to collect these gold sovereigns, but I'm also looking to be in close enough proximity to high numbers or cannibals already on the board, so I'm going to have some options for attacks when we go to get them. Alright. So with that said, I think I'm going to go right here because I'll be adjacent to an 8, a 9, and a 6, and I'll have decent mobility going this direction. So I'll flip that, collect the gold, flip the tile, and I'll collect the resource from the isle tiles. So this brown tile, that's going to be one of our sand cards. So I collect a sand resource. Alright, and now on my turn, I'm going to roll 3 d6 dice, and this is going to determine the movement of the chief cannibal, the hostile cannibals, and then my player pawn. Alright, so you can see we rolled doubles, so whenever we roll doubles, the chief cannibal doesn't move, but we need to add an additional hostile cannibal to the board to the highest undiscovered sovereign token. So right now that's going to be one of these 10s on the board. And I think I'm going to place him over here on this 10, so he's in close proximity to me, and that'll give me some options later on. Cool. And then all players will have to select 2 of the 3 dice for what's going to move the hostile cannibals and what is going to move my player pawn. So hostile cannibals can only move on the sum of these 2 dice, but when I select the 2 dice, I can either move on the sum, the highest of the single value, or the difference between the 2 dice. So if I were to select the 6s, I'd be able to move on the sum of 12, where I'd be able to move at the highest dice, which in this case would be a 6. Or if I take the 6 and the 3, I can move on the sum of 9. I can move to the difference of 6 and 3, which would be 3, or I can move to a 6. So in this case, I think I'm going to go ahead and take the 9, and then we have to, and I'm picking that, so what I'm doing to pick that, I'm looking around, where can these cannibals move? So if I take the 9, I see this guy is not adjacent to a 9, this guy is not adjacent to a 9, and this guy is not adjacent to a 9. I am adjacent to a 9, and I'm also adjacent to a 6. So, because we can take the highest of the sum instead of just the sum, I can take this 6 and this 3 for a total of 9. This guy won't move, but I am able to go to this 6 here and get in position where I can attempt an attack. So if I take the 6, I'll flip the tile and take the gold sovereign on there, and we've landed on a land tile. So we're going to go ahead and draw one of our land isle supply cards. And we've drawn a commodity. So in Cannibal Isles, the economy, we can either spend 2 commodities to reform a cannibal when the trust scale is at 0, or we can roll 2d6 dice when the trust scale is at 0, and we need to roll at least an 8 to successfully eliminate the cannibal. And for the range of those attacks, we have to be adjacent. So if we were over here, we would be 2 tiles away, so we're too far for an attack or to reform a cannibal at that light. But since we're right next to him, we've got options. So all of our land supplies are worth double. So this land commodity is really worth 2 commodities. So if I want, I can reform this cannibal right now, and that's what I'm going to choose to do. So if I play this card, I'm going to remove him from the board. He's been reformed, and I'm going to collect 2 victory points for reformation. So to track these, we're going to put them on our player card on the reformation point. And that shows that we've scored 2. Now that I've scored 2 points, I get to make an attempt at reducing my chief dice. So in solo player mode and in multiplayer mode, there's an objective to eliminate or reform the chief via the trial of influence. And how that is done is every time we score victory points, we get that amount of attempts to roll the number that our dice is currently showing. So in this case, I've scored 2 victory points, so I get to roll a single dice 2 times, and what I'm trying to do is roll a 6. So if I were to roll a 6, I would reduce my chief die to 5, and then I'd need to roll a 5. Whenever we reform or eliminate a hostile cannibal, we also get the option to do a wager bonus. So before we roll any of our dice, we can wager using our gold sovereigns. So I've got 2 gold sovereigns right now. Now these can be used to either trade in for agenda cards, or at the end of the game, if you were playing a multiplayer mode, these would each be worth 1 retaliation victory point, or we can also use it as a wager for extra attempts. We don't gain any extra victory points, but we do get extra rolls. So in this case, I've just gained 2 reformation victory points. I'm going to choose to play one of my gold sovereigns for a 3rd attempt, and now I'll roll a single d6 3 times, and I'm looking to reduce my chief die via the trial of influence objective. So I got a 5, and that doesn't count towards anything here. A 4, again, nothing, we're looking for a 6. And another 4. So our trial of influence stays at 6, and that ends our turn. At the start of our next turn, we're going to roll the 3d6 dice again. And I've rolled 2 6s and a 5. So again, we've rolled a double, so we must add another hostile cannibal to the board at the highest available undiscovered sovereign token. So in this case, that would be the last remaining 10 here. We'll move that to the Isle Tribute, flip the tile, place the cannibal, and now I can select my 2 dice for the the hostile cannibal movement and my player movement. And I accidentally dropped my dice there. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention is once we reform that cannibal, we're going to move the trust up 1. And what that does for us is now it becomes more difficult for us to reform a cannibal because they're going to want more commodities in order to reform. But we do have a larger radius at which we can do it. So say I had a cannibal 2 tiles away, I can now reform up to 2 tiles away. So I could reform this cannibal, but I would need 3 commodities in order to do it. What this also does is it lowers the probability, or in this case, heightens the probability of what we need to roll in order to eliminate a cannibal. So when our trust scale is at 0, we need to roll a sum of 8 on 2d6 dice to eliminate a cannibal. When we are on a trust of +1, we only need to roll a 7. And when we're at 2, a 6, and that works in reverse as well. So when we're -1, we need to roll a 9, and when we're -2, we need to roll a 10. I'm going to go ahead and grab my dice back here that I dropped and put it back to 6. All right. So again, I can choose 2 of these dice and I'll move on that. So I'm going to keep the 2 6s for a total of 12, but I'm going to take just one of them. I'm going to choose to use the highest of the valley, which is 6, because I'm adjacent to a 6. None of the cannibals are adjacent to 12, so they won't move at all. But I'm going to move to the 6 and collect the gold sovereign. I'll flip the tile face up, and then I'll move my pawn. And you can see I've landed on a blue tile that represents our sea tiles. And when you land in the sea or you plot in the sea, there's no supplies to be gathered from that. We need to either be landing on a land or a sand tile in order to gather supply cards. So right now, I don't have enough to reform the cannibals. This guy's not actually on the board here. I don't have enough to reform any of the cannibals on the board. I'm not in range to venture an attack on a cannibal. I do have 2 gold sovereigns though, so what I can do is choose to trade in these gold sovereigns for an agenda card. So I'm going to trade 1 gold sovereign for 1 agenda card. And I've drawn a movement card. So I get movement, move 2 adjacent spaces. So I can choose to play this card now and that would end my turn, or I can just end my turn naturally. The pros and cons of this. The game is over once all of these tiles are flipped face up. And in order to win in solo player mode, I need to 100% drain my trial of influence dice. So I need to roll 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But since the game is over once all these tiles are discovered, there's some hesitation to move and flip more tiles when it's not absolutely necessary. Because each time you're doing that, you're really shortening the time you have to reduce your dice. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to choose to play this card. And I'm going to move 2 adjacent spaces. So I'm going to move these 2. I'll collect my gold sovereigns from both of them, flip the tile. And you can see this is a red tile. That means this is a cannibal village. However, since we did not land on the village, we are not going to be eliminated by the cannibals. We just passed through. If I were to land on this, I would end up becoming a cannibal incarnate, and when that happens, you move to the lowest value flip tile, excluding the cannibal villages. So in this case, if I were to land on that tile, I'd start as a cannibal incarnate here. And when I'm a cannibal incarnate, I move on the same exact rules as all of the hostile cannibals. I don't collect any resources for myself, and I can't attack or earn any victory points. But we'll explain that more when we come to it. We actually ended on this 5, so I'll collect this one as well, and I'll flip this tile. And as you can see, I landed in an ocean or a sea tile, so we're not going to collect any resources for that. And since we played an agenda card, that's going to earn our turn, and we'll roll the dice again. All right. So we just rolled a 4, a 5, and a 6. So that is a straight, and whenever you roll a straight, and that falls under special movements. So none of the cannibals will move during special movements. For a straight, I get to move 2 adjacent tiles, and again, none of the cannibals will move. So I get to move up to 2 adjacent tiles. So for the sake of collecting gold sovereigns and the sake of the demo or the playtest, I'm going to go ahead and move those 2 tiles, but I'm going to choose to move to the 6 and this 5. I'm going to end on the 5. So let's go ahead and take the 6 first and see what our supply is. All right, so we got a sand, so we'll collect 1 sand card. And now we've got 2 sand materials, and we'll collect this 5. And we got another sand, so I'll take another sand resource. Now I have 3 sand materials. Because I wasn't using an agenda card to move because it was a special roll, I still get to take a player action on this turn. And what I'm going to choose to do, I do have 3 materials, so I would be able to build a chapel if I wanted to. But that's only worth 1 victory point, and I'm adjacent to some hostile cannibals right now, so I think I'm going to attempt an attack. So to do that, I'm going to roll 2d6 dice, and I think I want to try and attack. I'll try and attack this guy right here on the 6. So what I need to roll here is a 7 or higher for a successful attack, and I rolled a 3. So I'm unsuccessful. Nothing happens to my pawn here, but that is the end of my turn. All right, we got a 2, a 3, and a 5, so we have no special rolls, no doubles. So the chief cannibal is going to move to the highest adjacent undiscovered tile. So in this case, that would be the 6, because that's the closest, or the only one that's undiscovered within that range, and it's the highest. So he's going to move there, move the gold sovereign into the Isle tribute, and he's going to move over there. And then I go about selecting my 2 dice for my player move. So I can choose to take the 5, and there would be no... Well, actually, if I choose to take the 5, the cannibals have to move first, and since I am on a 5, I would be eliminated. So in a solo player game, this is less of an issue because you're not going to really choose to move the cannibal to eliminate you. But say another player wanted to move the cannibals and they were adjacent to me, I can move and eliminate that cannibal. So it kind of turns into a take that mechanic of the game. But since I'm not going to choose to take my own cannibal or take my own missionary out of the game, I'm going to take the 7, because I can move this guy here. He doesn't flip up any more tiles. The chief only moves based off of the first roll. He doesn't move on the sum here, so he'll stay still even though he's adjacent to a 7. And I can look about so my options here would be to move to a 7, move to a 3, or move to a 5. I'm not really adjacent to any of that because this guy's already on the 7. I can't move there. The tile's not available. You can only have one pawn on a tile at a time, and that's why if the cannibal were to land on me when I'm on the pawn, he would eliminate me. But since that's not the case, I'm going to stay put on the 5, and I'm going to try to do another attack on the cannibal. And I got another 3, so that's unsuccessful. We'll roll the dice again. Alrighty, so no special rolls. We'll move our chief to the highest adjacent tile, so in that case this is the 8. He'll move right over here. And then I'll choose my 2 dice. And I'm going to choose to take the 6. So these guys are not adjacent to any 6s. but I can move to the 4 and collect a sand resource card. And I've got a sand commodity. And I'm going to try to do another attack. And again, I'm looking for a 7. And look at that, we got a 7. So I eliminated this cannibal. I gained 2 victory points for retaliation. And since I've got some gold sovereigns, I'm going to choose to wager those. I'm going to wager 4. So 4 plus my 2, I get 6 attempts to lower my chief die here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm unsuccessful, and that's going to end my turn. We'll roll the 3 dice again. And we've rolled doubles, so the chief is going to return to the center, to the sanctuary title. And then we're going to add another cannibal to the board, and we're going to add them to one of the highest available tiles. In that case, it's now the 9s. So I think I'm going to place it... Let's put it right over here. All right. Oops. Flip that dice on accident. I don't really remember what it is, so I guess I'll take the 12. And since I took the 12, I could move to the 6, but I don't really want to get out of range of these cannibals, so we'll just call that good. None of these guys are adjacent to a 12, so they won't move at all. When I eliminated that cannibal, I was meant to drop the trust by 1, so now we're back to a 0. Which means I have to roll an 8 to eliminate. Try my hand at rolling an 8. And it's a 5, so that ends my turn. I roll doubles. We'll add another cannibal to the board. Again, highest available tile, so let's go ahead and just put them right here. And it is a 5. Oh, well, he goes there. Alright, so we can take an 8. This guy would beat us to the 8 because the cannibals move first. This would have to eat up the 8. I can do a 5. And if I do a 5, then I can choose in which order I move the cannibals. So even though this guy is adjacent to an undiscovered token, if I take the 5, I can move him here to this one. And if I move him first, then I block this guy's move. So I'm going to choose to do that. So I'll move him to the 5. This guy has no move. These guys have no move. I now have no move, but I didn't eat up another one of my sovereign tokens, which is buying me more time. And since I've been unsuccessful with attacks, I'm going to go ahead and build a chapel. So to build a chapel, I need to play 2 materials, and I'm going to use those materials to build a chapel. So to build a chapel, you just place one of your chapel tokens on the board. Right now I'm just using a placeholder because I don't have any chapel tokens made up yet. But essentially it's going to be the same thing, but in your player color. So that is worth 1 victory point for Reformation. I'm going to put that on my player card to mark the total, and I'm going to go ahead and roll. But since we didn't reform or eliminate a cannibal here, I don't have the option to wager a gold sovereign for extra rolls. That's only when we successfully eliminate or reform a cannibal. So I only get 1 attempt. I get no option to wager. So I'm going to try to roll 1 time to get a 6. And I got a 1. So that does nothing. My turn is now over, and I'll roll the dice again. And we've got no duplicates, so we're going to move the cannibal chief to the highest adjacent undiscovered tile. In that case, it's going to be this 5 here. We will flip the tile, move the chief, and we'll select 2 of our dice. And I'm going to think of what I want to do here. So I think I'm going to choose to take the 6. So I'll move this guy to a 6, move him to the 6. I don't move because I don't have a move here, so I'll stay put, but I can try another attack. And again, I'm looking for an 8. And I got a 4, so nothing good. Roll again. Doubles, return the chief to the center. Oops. Add a hostile cannibal to the board. I'm going to put him next to me on this 8. Give me more opportunities. And we'll go ahead and I put him on a 9. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take the 10. These guys, this guy would have to move. I can move. No, I couldn't move. Take the 12. I'm just take the 12. And I'm going to trade this in for an agenda card. And I've gained 2 land, so this is a good draw here. I'm going to go ahead and redeem that right away for 2 land. And since I'm redeeming an agenda card, that's going to end my turn here. So I drew 2 land provisions. And that is the end of my turn. I'll roll the dice again. And we've got a special roll here, a 1, 2, 3. So remember, when we roll straight, we get to move 2 adjacent tiles, and none of the cannibals move. So I'm going to go ahead and move 2 adjacent tiles here, and I'm going to take this 8. Awesome, and I landed on a land isle. So I'll draw a land resource card. I'm drawing a land material. So right now I don't have the commodities to reform any cannibals. I do have enough resources to build another chapel if I want, or I can try to attack. I'm going to try to attack. So I'm going for this guy on the 6. And I need to roll an 8. 6, 7, 8. And look at that. We have a successful attack. So we're going to remove that cannibal from the board. We're going to drop the trust by 1. And I am going to collect 2 victory points towards retaliation. Put them on my player card right here to track that. And that's worth 2 victory points. I'm going to wager 1 of my gold sovereigns for 3 attempts to reduce my die. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. And I finally got a 6. So I'm going to drop that down to 5. And that's going to end my turn. And I roll doubles again. We'll add another cannibal to the board. Oop. And I'm just realizing now that there was a 9 available. So when I was adding all those cannibals earlier, I should have been putting them on the 9, but that's a miss by me. So I'll just go ahead and put them there now. Alright, so I've got a 6 showing. These guys are not adjacent to a 6. This guy's not adjacent to a 6. No 6. I'm going to move my token there. Draw a sand. So I've got 2 commodities now. And that is enough to reform a cannibal, but I am not adjacent to any cannibals, so that doesn't do me anything right now. I do have 2 land provisions, and remember, land are worth double. So in order to move 1 adjacent space without using the dice, you can play 2 land provisions. You can also trade 2 land provisions for an agenda card. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and play 2 land provisions to to move my cannibal here, and since I landed on a land, it's kind of self-serving. I drew a land commodity, and whoop, and I threw the land commodity away by accident. And I'm going to go ahead and play that right away to form this cannibal. That's worth 2. I'll move the trust up 1. I'll draw 2 victory points and put them on my player mat. And then I get 2 attempts to take out this cannibal. 1, 2. No success. Roll again. Doubles again. Add another cannibal to the board. Has to go to this 8. Seven, 8. I think I might take the 8. And this guy, oops, this guy is not adjacent to any 8s, not adjacent to any 8s, not adjacent to any 8s, not adjacent to any 8s. I can move to the 5, and I'm going to take a sand resource, and I've got a sand provision. This is another one of my cards that I dropped earlier. So this is my land provision. I'm going to play that. I'm going to use that to draw an agenda card. And I've drawn instant influence, 3 victory points for retaliation. So I'll go ahead and play that right away. Collect my 3 victory points for retaliation and put them on my player card. And then I'm going to take my 3 attempts. And that one was successful. I get 2 more. 1, 2, and look at that, another successful hit. So we drop it down to 3. And that'll end our turn, so we'll roll again. Nothing adjacent, so we move our cannibal to the highest. Looks like these are tied. I'll go ahead and move them up here. All right. Six, 7, 8, 5, 6. So I need to get in range. So I'm going to take the 8s. And again, these guys aren't adjacent to any 8s, so I'm going to move my guy here. And that is about all I can do on this turn, so I'm going to go ahead and roll again. Doubles rolled, chief returns to the center. Place the cannibal on the highest token. I'm going to put him on the 7 here, so he's within range of me. And I'll take the 6, I guess, so nobody's next to a 6. And I'll attempt an attack. 5, 6, 7. Not quite. So that ends that. 3, 4, 6. No special rolls. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. This is technically the closest highest available, so he's going to go there. Alright, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to take the 7. And the hostile cannibals can't move onto the center tile, so he's going to move over here. This guy will move here. These guys, oh, technically this guy has to move too, so I'm going to move over there, and look at that. That is our third hostile village. There's only 3 on the board, so now we know any of these tiles will be safe for us to land on, so that's good news. And I'm going to attempt another attack. And look at that, we got an 8, and this guy has been eliminated. We're going to collect 2 victory points for retaliation. And we're going to take our attempts. 1, 2. No luck. Doubles again. Cannibal gets added to the board. Alright, I'm going to take the 5. So I'm going to move this guy here, I'm going to move this guy here, and this guy over here, and then I'm going to move my piece over here. And I collect the sand resource, and I've now got enough sand commodities, so I'm going to choose to take them out by reformation. I get 2 victory points for that. Chest moves up 1, 2 attempts, 1, 2, no luck. Roll again, doubles, add another cannibal to the board. I'm gonna put him over here because I kind of want to get this gold sovereign for myself. We put him here. I'm gonna take 5. I'm gonna move this guy to a 5. Nobody else is adjacent to a 5. I want this 4, so I'm gonna take the highest value. And I'm gonna flip that. And that didn't really do me too much good there. So I'm gonna trade in this token for an agenda card and hope for something nice. Island Climate. Flip the Sanctuary title. So this card can only be played when the chief is not on there. What this card will do for me is I'll change the climate of the isles. So when the center tile is white, reformation attacks are worth 3 instead of 2, and retaliation is only worth 1. But I also get a bonus victory point when I flip that, and I get to roll 1d6 dice, and whatever the outcome of that dice is, I get to collect that many gold sovereigns from the Isle Tribute. So this is a decent card, but we need to wait for the cannibal to leave the center. So I can't play that right now. And I don't have enough commodities to do anything along those lines. So I'm really that's the end of my turn there. I'll roll again. Doubles are rolled. He will not move. This guy goes here. Oh, but interesting here. We actually have to put this back because we don't have any more cannibals to put on the board. So this is kind of a free move right now. I guess I'll take the 7. I'll move him to a 7. This guy's not adjacent to any 7s. I don't really have anything to do here. Roll again. Alright. Now this guy has to move. He collects that. I'll take the 5. This guy moves here. This guy moves here. He's adjacent to me. Alright. I am going to choose to flip the center tile, and what I'm hoping here is that I'm going to get a lot of gold sovereigns because I really only am going to have one more turn. So I flip that. I collect 1 victory point for reformation because I've turned the center tile to white. I'm going to roll the dice 1 time, and this is going to be for my sovereign total first. And it's a 2. Not really what I was looking for there. So I collect 2 gold sovereigns, and now I get to roll the dice once for the victory point I earned, and this is going to be towards trying to reduce my chief die. It's 2, no good, that ends my turn. Dice is cockeyed, so I'll roll it again. And doubles, return the chief to center. Whenever the chief returns to center, he flips tile back to black. No cannibals to add to the board, so that actually is a good thing here. And I guess I'll take the 8 so I can move this guy closer to me. These guys are not next to any 8s. And I'm going to attempt to attack this guy on the 5. And I only need a 7 right now, so hopefully I can get that. 6, 7, 8. Look at that. This guy has been eliminated. I get 2 victory points for that. And I'm going to wager my 2 gold sovereigns, so I get 4 attempts. Look at that. 1. 2. Look at that. We're on a roll. We just need a 1. 2 more attempts. Last attempt. Ah, so close. Roll again. That ends my turn. 3, 4, 6. No special moves. He'll move to the highest adjacent. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's a horse apiece. I'll move him over here. Not drop that down though. Four, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll take the 7. It doesn't really matter. This is going to be most likely my last attempt. This guy can't move, can't move, can't move, can't move, can't move. Need to roll an 8. And I got an 8. That guy is eliminated. I'm going to take 2 tiles, or 2 victory points towards retaliation. And I got 2 attempts to roll 1. 2. And a 5. No good. Come on, triples, triples, triples. 1, 3, 4. Nothing doing. This guy moves over, flips the last tile, and the game ends immediately. And that is how you lose solo mode of Cannibal Isles. Very close, just needed the 1, but that's it. Hope you enjoyed.